my name is Bob Cuesta. I'm out of Lowell, Mass. I was born here in 1971, been here most of my life. I run a business called Empanada Dada. It's a local food truck that services the greater Lowell area, surrounding towns, southern New Hampshire. And it's a great city. You know, it's a great place to do business. So many small businesses thriving here, and you know, it's kind of great to work in that same circle of success.
What inspired you to create Empanada Dada?
So my parents emigrated from Cuba in 1962, just around the time of the revolution there, and not long before the Cuban Missile Crisis, and came to the city. So you know, it's in my roots, that type of food. I grew up on all of that type of stuff. Empanadas being one of them, and you know, everybody that's had empanadas loves those kinds of things. A nice, easy to eat food, and so most of my professional career was worked in corporate America. Back in 2012, I sort of had the desire to start a catering business because I love working with my hands and I love cooking the food that I grew up on. And it sort of progressed over time from doing backyard pig roasts, things like that, to selling empanadas as part of my menu options, and became pretty obvious pretty quickly that people really liked them because they're just so easy to eat and fun, and you can put just about anything you want inside them, right? So in 2017, I sort of decided to leave my corporate roots there and go full time at this, and so I stopped the traditional catering and pig roasts and things like that I was doing, and built the Empanada Dada food truck. And so, you know, here I am. It's hard to believe I'm going into my 6th season.
Oh, wow.
Started in 2017, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, so you went through the E4All program.
I did.
So what is the E4All program and how was that experience?
So the timing was perfect, right? So I told you I left my corporate job at the tail end of 2016, early 2017, and I had caught wind of, it's actually happened here in this, how it all sort of came to fruition was here in Mill 5. My wife was in the elevator with the former executive director, Liana Kushi. I don't know if you remember Liana. She's out west now, but my wife has this knack for sort of starting up conversations, and had a conversation in the elevator with Liana, and Liana had indicated what she did, and my wife said, my husband's starting this food truck. And so they talked me into doing this food pitch contest at Northern Essex and Lawrence, which was like you had to do like a 2-minute elevator pitch. So it gave me the opportunity to kind of like, all right, well, I'm gonna just pitch this thing to, there's a group of judges, local businesses, restaurateurs, things like that. And I did my pitch. It was great, I won. That was obviously a nice thing too. And then she talked me into signing up for the accelerator program. They do 2 a year, I think, and it's usually like anywhere between 10 to 15 local businesses that apply to be in the program. And so I was in the summer accelerator of 2017 with a bunch of awesome businesses. And it was just an amazing experience. And I'm sure it's grown exponentially even just in the last 6 years. But they pair you up with a mentor for the year, and every week is a different topic. Different topics that are business related, whether it's accounting or marketing or digital media, social media, things like that. And you have different subject matter experts come in every week and it's like a 3-hour class twice a week. Invaluable knowledge, right, that they give you, that just kind of gives you all the necessary puzzle pieces that you need to, if you're thinking, you got a great idea and you want to start a business, really, really helps you get going.
Yeah, have you noticed the food industry changing over the years, and especially since COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of restaurants that really struggled through that, right? When the quarantines were in effect, right? People couldn't eat out, people couldn't go into dining rooms and sit down and have dinners, right? Luckily for me, being in the food truck business, we were outside, so we didn't, we suffered in that I lost a lot of my corporate catering, right? So companies hire me to come in and feed 200-300 people, right? If people are working from home, they're not having corporate events, right? So 2020 and 2021 were still good years for me. I was still profitable, but naturally 2019 had been my high water mark, and then 2022 last year was my best year, so things really have come back. But it definitely took the wind out of a lot of businesses, the sales out of a lot of businesses, and some have gone under. And I think what's happened is a lot of people that were in the restaurant business have decided to build food trucks for that reason, right? Because you're sort of COVID proof, I guess. If you're outside, that you have a better chance of being able to get people to come to the window. There's fresh air all around. That helps.
Yeah. We have a burning question.
Okay.
Do empanadas originate from Cuba?
They're everywhere. Every Latin American country has them. Cuba has them, Spain has them, Mexico has them, Venezuela, Colombia, everywhere. And they're all similar in that they have a filling and there's some kind of dough or crust on the outside. Some countries use a corn wrapper, some use a flour, and some fry them and some bake them, right? Argentina, so they're all over the place. So definitely not just from Cuba, they're in a lot of different places.
Do you want to describe the process of making empanadas and kind of like your day-to-day, like what you do?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's the crust, right, which is it's a flour, shortening, water, salt kind of dough, right? Not super complicated to make, but requires time and effort and a lot of mixing and kneading, and then forming them into the circular discs, or and then sort of the quarter circle shape that I make mine out of, right, just to make them a little different. And then there's the fillings, right? So, my business, we do anywhere, depending on what time of the year, are selling, some weeks could be selling 3,000 or 4,000 empanadas, right? So it's crazy. Right now, we're sort of still in the lull. I'm always busy, but, it's sort of like the hockey stick, right? So, you got January, February, December, it's quieter, but then once we get into April, May, it's nuts. And it'll stay nuts until, October, November of the end of the year, and then it sort of starts to slow down. The weather obviously has an impact on that. So I do, every week, usually there's 2 days of manufacturing, and I'm making batches that are, when I'm making a batch for a line of empanadas, whether it's the beef pico de gallo, which is the best seller, it's about a 40-pound batch of filling that I'm making to maybe generate 600 or 700 empanadas out of that batch. So it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's a factory, right? I mean, and so you have to constantly be making them. And I have I always have hundreds in inventory. So every week we're manufacturing, and those get frozen and they stay frozen, and then they end up in the food truck where they remain frozen until they get dropped into a fry later.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know the process.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you collaborate with any other small businesses in Lowell or in the area?
It's a great question. I have at times, and I try to buy some things locally here if I can, whether it's certain vegetables or things or ingredients. And I try. I've had Brian's hot sauces on my truck before. So yeah, if any chance you get to collaborate is great.
What are the challenges of running a small business?
It's really just not, you just never know, right? And a perfect example of that would be COVID, right? So nobody saw that coming, and you just never know who knew that they were going to shut stuff down for a year or several months, right? And that obviously had, I just said a few minutes ago, had an impact on certain types of work that I do or certain business that I get, right? But you always have to be. I think I always say when I've spoken to any entrepreneurs, when you're coming up with your business model, whatever product it is you're going to sell, and E4All is a great great resource to help you kind of work through those challenges. Right? Is kind of figuring out, well, who's my market? Who am I selling to? Is there anybody else doing what I'm doing? And if they are, how am I different? And that's the challenge, right? Is figuring out who your market, who you're selling to, and then obviously figuring out. And now for me, I had a lot of, I told you I started that catering business back in 2012. Well, that was 5 years before I launched my food truck. I had the opportunity to work out a lot of the kinks around pricing and develop or sort of build a following. Right? So when I launched in 2017, I already had a customer base, under my Cuestas Fiestas catering business that were waiting for me to launch. And that was part of the challenge too, right? Is sort of just, when you're ready to launch, making sure you're out there, you're present, you're using the social media resources available to you, because especially in the food truck business and the way I do business, I'm not usually, aside from Mill 5, the farmer's market on Sundays here, I very rarely am in the same place every day or every week. This is probably one of the only places that you can always depend on me being static, it's a static location. So you really have to leverage social media to communicate to your, your customer base where you're going to be. And I'm pretty, I try to be very consistent in posting every week where I'm going to be for the week. I feel blessed that, with a great customer base that I have and support that I have, that I've been able to, to put money away for that next move, whether it's that next truck or having a storefront in the right location where I can sort of have a lot of, customers coming in for orders and going out, and the food truck is out doing what it does now.
Yeah, I was going to ask, besides meal number 5, where else can people find you?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is to follow Empanada Dada on Instagram and Facebook. I'm very, like I said, I always post on there where I'm going to be for the week, because it changes. I do a lot of local breweries and I do some farmers markets, obviously, that, and corporate catering. So I get around, but if you live in this general area, you can generally find me here on Sundays 10 to 1. This is Mill 5, 10 to 1 for the farm market, and then there's Navigation Brewing in Lowell that I'm there twice a month. There's a brewery at Western Ave Studios, which is a great spot, one of my original locations, just like Mill 5.
That's all I have. Do you want to say anything else?
No, that's great. I really appreciate having the opportunity to have come in to speak to you and be a part of this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love the city. I love anything Lowell related, and appreciate the work you're doing
Yeah.
here to make this farmers market at Mill 5 thrive on Sundays.
Thanks.
I know it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
All right.
thank you so much.